Hey, Luminaries. It is our first episode of Virgo season 2021. And, you think about Virgo season, so organized, got the plan, already set, go. Well, what happens when you have the plan, yet the whole world feels like it is ending? So, in this episode, I am just going to do it totally on the fly and just kind of chit chat about how to keep going when all your plans go to beep. I'm not actually going to swear on this podcast. Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and Aquarius boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. You may or may not know this about me, but I am not a terribly organized person. Yes, Jeff and I, a few months ago, we planned out all of our episodes through the summer. And as the summer is ending and getting my son ready for kindergarten and like really, really, really looking forward to my son going back to school, yes, so that he can learn, but more so that I can like really get back to thinking and some quiet space. I need so much alone time for myself. I was really looking forward to making some plans and creating lots of content. And then, 3 days of school came and we get a note from the school saying there was a COVID case in our classrooms. And so they were sending all of the little kindergarteners back home for the time being. Oh my goodness. I just really, 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 really wasn't prepared for this. It really felt like, in terms of like my work just being at such a high point last week, having delivered Written in the Stars, which is that mini training that I was delivering on how to read your natal chart for business. It was so amazing because, like, everybody in the class, it was just so much fun and I got such great feedback and I felt I was really making a huge difference and I was ready to like jump into the next thing, get all of the content planned for Star Powered, which was the following 4-week intensive. And then everything came to this grinding halt. Take it, we found out just a couple of days before the full moon, and my son was having a hard time transitioning. Like, was he going to kindergarten? Was he not going to kindergarten? Now he's staying home with us all day and we can't go anywhere over the weekend. And it was just like this pile up of things. And I personally call me weak, call me whatever. I could not handle it. I felt like I was just like holding on for dear life for the last like 18 months. Like almost all of us have been just like really, really, really holding on. Then the full moon happened. And that full moon, it's easy to look at it 2020 hindsight, so to say. And I had known that this full moon was going to be really big for me, that Aquarius of 29-degree full moon. Like, full moons are like full illumination. And this full illumination was basically showing how broken my plan was, how unstable everything was, or not necessarily how unstable everything is that even if something is stable, how the wool can just be totally pulled out from under you. Part of Written in the Stars, I was showing people how to look at a lunation. So, like a full moon, it's the opposition, and it was at 29 degrees of Aquarius and the Leo side of the sun at 29 degrees, and looking at that polarity and seeing what's being illuminated on your chart. Well, for me, natally, I have almost all of my planetary energies are in late degrees of mutable and fixed signs. So this full moon basically just ignited my grand trine. And in astrology, grand trines are like really stable. And so, somebody could say, "Oh, Leslie, you're so lucky that you have this grand trine." And most of the time, I feel really lucky having a grand trine. I feel like things often come very easily for me. I almost always have, like, the grass is always kind of greener things. I'm like very, very optimistic. But when I was younger, my grand trines made me really like lazy because I didn't really have to work for anything. But this stable structure of the grand trine, made of like 3 elements that are at like 120 degrees, it's a very, very stable element. And the full moon basically just kind of like tore it apart, just kind of like blasted it apart. And I knew I was in a bad place on that full moon eve, because I remember just like breaking down, and I had spent the whole like day like screaming at my son, like very shameful, like, I'm sorry, yes, I am a parent that like absolutely like loses her shit on her son sometimes, because like everything was like completely triggered. And I finally just like locked myself in my room, just like crying, because I was like, how can like life be going so well on one aspect, like with my business and like delivering on my offers and really making differences in my clients' lives, yet in my own personal lives, my son was suffering, I was suffering. I felt like even like half of my hair just went even grayer in that last week, and I didn't have any capacity to hold it all. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is not for a pity party. That is not the reason why I'm sharing this with you, but I'm sharing this with you just to kind of show you in practice, and also for myself to just kind of vent and get it off my chest a little bit, is that we are so far from perfect, especially when we're thinking we're going into Virgo season, and Virgo season is about, making as perfect as possible and being so effective and like streamlining and synthesizing and diagnosing and making healthy and making whole. There's no freaking way. There's just like there's no way that we can try to attain this perfectness. So does that make us unwhole? No, it makes us completely whole, even if we are broken. Last week, I had found this article in the Atlantic magazine. I love the articles there. There's an article written by Dan Sinker, said, parents are not okay. And he opens up with, we're not even at a breaking point anymore. We are broken. And so what some of the things that are going through my mind, and I don't have answers. I have just questions upon questions upon questions upon questions, is that when the world feels like it's ending, like I live in San Francisco Bay Area, and California, Northern California, Western United States is basically burning, like the Tahoe Basin, which is just about 4 hours northeast of here, has had the record like worst air quality ever recorded at like over 500 AQI, just like hazardous, beyond hazardous. And then the terrible things of like Afghanistan falling, all I can think about are all of like the women and the girls who had made such strides in living in the last 20 something years with freedoms and liberty and education and music, and just the ability to be a woman and not hide yourself, like literally not hide yourself. So all of these things just like compounding on top of like my personal woe is me, I'm having a hard time with my totally okay son who's just going through a hard time because he couldn't go to kindergarten. Like my problems like really pale in comparison to some of like the bigger things that are going on this planet right now. But I think what I'm trying to tell myself here is that it doesn't negate or it doesn't invalidate the extreme duress that I had been under. Gratefully, it's a couple of days after that full moon. I feel like things are looking up. I can see I go often back to my chart and go, what do all these planets want me to learn right now? I don't really have any, oh, who am I kidding? I'm like, I don't really have any hard aspects going, but I have. So we can see that if you're watching on the video, the inner circle are my natal planets where they are at the time I was born, and the outer circle are the planets where they are here and now. A couple of big things that are going on for me in the here and now is that I am having a second pass at my Jupiter return because Jupiter is going retrograde. It's currently at 26 degrees of Aquarius. So it's sitting right on top of my sun, my natal sun, and my natal Jupiter, which are in conjunction in the 9th house. And so the first time it passed through, I barely noticed it. Like people are always like waiting for their Jupiter return. It happens every 12 years and like it's usually like really expansive. And I barely felt anything when it went through that first pass back in February. now that it's going through the second pass, yeah, like work is really awesome. I feel really fortunate and grateful that all of my hard work that I have been doing and showing up consistently on a podcast, even though I'm showing up totally on the fly today. I have like no outline, no anything, and I'm just like rambling here. That the podcast is growing, visibility is growing. I'm touching the lives and businesses of more and more entrepreneurs. Like that is really what I've been really working for. And so grateful, yes, with this second Jupiter pass. You can also see that Pluto right now at 24 degrees of Capricorn is sitting directly on top of my natal Venus at 25 degrees of Capricorn. And Pluto has just kind of been parking itself, it's at least for 8 months or so, almost a year now. Another couple of years with the retrograde is just hanging out at that degree. Has it been transforming my relationships? Oh my gosh, like let's not go there. I know you're not a marriage counselor. I say that in jest, but in also in seriousness, like my personal life is not as exciting right now as my business life. And Uranus at 27 degrees in Libra, and my Saturn at 27 degrees in Gemini, those make up my grand trine with my Sun and my Jupiter. And so those are being amplified right now. And Jupiter, it really just really expands. So if you're feeling kind of down in the dumps and just like not having a great day or anything, Jupiter is just magnifying that. Jupiter is not necessarily like putting buoyancy and abundance unless you consciously choose to see it that way. That's why working with Jupiter, you have to consciously choose to be grateful. I am so grateful. And you can be grateful and just be like having a completely crap time. So I looked at my chart and I'm like, okay, what do I see here? Yes, I can see that I am in a place of, if I were to read this chart for somebody else, I would say like, things are great for you. You don't have any squares or oppositions. You've gone through all of your past transits. Are things still difficult? Yes, things are still difficult. So another tip of insight that I was like, what do we do when the world just feels like it is falling apart? So I come to my oracle cards, and my favorite deck that I'm just obsessing right now, you probably heard me talk about her and I've interviewed her, and I just love the lexicons that she creates in her decks. One of my favorite decks to give me some insight and just like, what the heck do I do at this moment in time, is Colette Baron-Reid's Spirit Animal Oracle. And so today, as I come onto this podcast recording with absolutely no goal, no intention, no outline of what I want to share or teach, just like on the fly, I asked the oracle cards, what do I need to hear? And what do my listeners need to hear? What will be in service to them? And so the card that I pulled is Eagle Spirit. And I'll just read this from Colette's Oracle book here. Eagle Spirit, Spirit has your back. I mean, this deck is always so freaking accurate. So, and helpful. You might have heard me talk about one of my tarot decks that just like completely hated me and it never had anything helpful to share. So I put that one in Goodwill. Sorry, deck. This deck I'm keeping. So Eagle Spirit says, Spirit has your back. Think of the eagles flying high above the other birds, soaring on the wind. Eagle Spirit has appeared to ask whether you're willing to soar to new heights, even if that means solitude for a short while. Truly, all the wisdom of the world is available to you. When storms flash across the sky, it is Eagle Spirit that raises you above it all, helping you conquer fear and overcome adversity, reminding you that Spirit has your back and wants you to experience life at its fullest. At this moment, you're meant to know that you have the highest of wisdom and courage within, gifted to you by Spirit and all the angels. Boldly build your nest in a lofty space and know that now you can fly effortlessly, proudly embodying Eagle Spirit in all her glory and grace, claiming what is truly yours in divine timing. Thank you, Eagle Spirit, for reminding me that this too shall pass, that this is all part of the process. And if I take my own medicine to see the silver linings and everything, I know that I'll make it through and that this is just part of that process to show me that, you know what? Sometimes your best laid plans and intentions simply won't go your way, but it doesn't mean that it's not ever going to happen. It just means, as Colette says, claiming what is truly yours in divine timing. So basically, Eagle Spirit is telling me, just hold your horses, Leslie. This is not the time. Okay, I get it. But Eagle Spirit, do you understand how much work I have to do? No, just kidding. I put all this work in front of me. It's right before September. So I have of course, my business star cast that I send out. And then I also am the resident astrologer for Kate Northrup's Origin Collective. And so that part I create on her theme, the horoscope, the business cosmic weather. That was up today. And then tomorrow I'm also delivering a training for the empresses in that group. And if you want to learn more about Origin, check it out. The membership by Kate Northrup, it's so amazing. And she teaches this kind of business process about doing less. And I personally am so aligned with that idea of doing less. And that's part of the reason why I love using astrology, because by tuning to our highest potentials, we essentially get to work with more ease and flow, do less. Now, in September, Origin's theme is all about the body. And I don't often talk about the body in my personal brand with the Savvy Luminary, because I'm looking at stars and asking about getting curiosity, like how do we run our businesses more effectively, and thinking about upcoming Virgo season. And the theme that I had created for upcoming Virgo season for the Savvy Luminary was reorganizing effective systems. But as I was writing the forecast for Kate's group Origin, it was all about the body. And I was like, yeah, I'm missing that part. Maybe for me, the world feels like it's ending because I haven't really been slowing down and taking care of my body amongst all of this stress. I'm still committed to this podcast, even though I didn't plan anything. I'm still preparing for a new workshop. I'm still writing all the star casts. I'm repurposing an article. I'm planning a photo shoot. No wonder I'm so freaking stressed out trying to, also be a teacher and a mom for my son, waking up all kinds of crazy just to get all this work done. I think my biggest lesson that I want to share with you as I ramble on here is when the world feels like it's just going to end and all of your best intentioned and laid out plans are just not going your way. Here are some of the things that I have done in the last few days to kind of cope with it. Okay. So yes, number one, I have been waking up early because I just need to get up a little bit early, and while it's still quiet in the house, and focus my mind and focus my thoughts so I can prioritize like the one or two things that I will do each day because I don't have a full day anymore. The second thing, and I actually did this right before the full moon and after I finished delivering Written in the Stars to all of the fantastic luminaries that joined up, I got such amazing feedback, just like emails and social media posts. And, thank you, thank you, thank you. I have read them. I am still on my way to respond to them. But I created this text document of all of the wonderful things that people have been saying about me and my work. And so I've been kind of reading that when I've been feeling extra gloomy. It's lifted my spirits a little bit as in my gloomiest parts, but it really does warm my heart. And it just like shows me that I'm really on my path. The third thing that I've been doing while the world has been kind of like falling apart for me over the last few days is I have not been showing up on social media. I haven't had the time or the energy to scroll or respond. Yes, Jeff and I are still posting on social media, but these are things that we have pre-scheduled, that we have already pre-planned out. So again, if you've left a comment or a message for me on social media, I haven't yet seen it or have been able to respond, but thank you. Please keep on sharing the love because I will get to it, I promise. The fourth thing, I still showed up. I am here rambling on, and if you're still listening to me here, I still showed up because I have committed to this podcast. This podcast is a long commitment for me. Like, I just love showing up. I love being heard in your little ear pods and earbuds as you go for a walk. I imagine taking a little walk in nature wherever you may be on this planet Earth, and just sharing whatever wisdom that comes up for me, or in this instant, the wounds that will turn into wisdom shortly. The other thing that I just allowed myself to do is like literally just cry and scream. So right now I'm not looking my most fabulous. Like, my eyes are just like completely shot. My hair is just like another shade of white, which I'm just going to leave that. That's fine. And then my pillows are just soaked through and screamed through. But sometimes it's just so amazing to just scream. The other thing is that I actually, for the first time in a long time, actually reached out to some friends, and just kind of messaged them and let them know that I was feeling so broken. And people, I think, were really like just very caring and really loving, and just kind of checking in on me and wondering how I'm doing, and just being so nice. Like, I even had like a neighborhood mom who surprised us with donuts one morning, just because she knew that we were quarantined and waiting for not one negative COVID test, but two negative COVID tests. And, just before I started recording this, I did get my son's second negative COVID test. So he gets to go back to school on Thursday after a week out of school. Oh, please send happy thoughts and good vibes that he gets to stay in school, because there's no kindergartner that does online virtual learning. And then the last thing that I did this week to really help stabilize and just take some of the things off of my plate is I got my groceries delivered. I realized that I am very fortunate, and that that's not the case for everybody. Either you might not have grocery delivery, or you might not have the extra funds to be able to have those groceries delivered. But I decided that I was going to allow myself to get groceries delivered, including meal kits delivered, because I just had no capacity to figure things out, go get groceries, figure out what to cook. And then lastly, I'm forgiving myself for not being perfect, because I try to be as good as possible. I'm always trying to maximize, but there are some times where we're supposed to be sloppy and we're supposed to be messy, and it doesn't make us any less whole. Being sloppy and being messy and being in this place of just, for me, this is not even like a dark night of the soul. It was just like a really hard past week. And I'm forgiving myself for not having all of my shit together. I hope that my clients are forgiving me for missing some deadlines or not responding to emails automatically. I will come back, I promise. So, if you've been listening to this far, thank you for listening to me, because this has really helped me kind of process, just verbally process. My Gemini rising is really happy to be able to speak things through and process things out. And my Sagittarius moon is so grateful to have the freedom to be able to express and share what I needed to share. So thank you. This has been very healing for me. And if you feel like you are so broken from like the last 18 months, allow yourself to be broken. Allow yourself to say like, hey, excuse me, I need to go cry and scream into this pillow. Allow yourself to say like to your child or your family, if you happen to lash out at them, and say like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, but moms aren't perfect either. And if this has touched you in any way, just know you're not alone. So thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. On Sunday, I'll be sharing the upcoming September business Starcast. September, we have a big month. We have our second Mercury retrograde coming, all kinds of fun things as we learn to reorganize effective systems in our lives and our businesses. Please put your body first. Take care of your vessel so that it can move through emotions more quickly, and it can hold the capacity for all of your brilliance that is wanting to shine through. So thank you. Also, remember, Colette Baron reads Spirit Animal Oracle. We got Eagle Spirit has your back. Well, Spirit has your back. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Luminaries. Thank you for listening, and more soon. Hopefully, I'll be in a better place, a little more organized. Take care. The greatest thing that you could do to me to pass things forward is to head over to Apple iTunes and leave a rating and review for this podcast. Let others know what you think, and each rating and review helps this podcast be more visible to listeners like you.